حي على الفلاح.
Abu Abdullah Muhammad ibn Ahmad al-Qusri relates that in Istanbul there was a governor, he died. They dug a grave for him. When they were on the verge of lowering this body inside the grave, do you know what they saw inside the grave? They saw a black snake waiting for him inside the grave. They were terrified. Naturally they were terrified. They didn't want to bury this guy inside this grave, so they dug another grave. Now they've spent hours digging the second grave. They're on the verge of lowering the body inside the grave, and you know what? The same snake they saw in the first is waiting in the second. They dig a third grave, and they find, when they're on the verge of lowering this grave, all of a sudden, out of the blue, they find the same black snake inside the grave. The narration says that on that day, they dug about 30 graves. Every time the grave was dug and they were on the verge of lowering this body inside the grave, they would find the same black snake waiting. Where are you going to hide? You know, even when you've gone 6 foot under, you can't get away. You've left the dunya and you've gone 6 foot under and you think you've got away with it. This is where it will begin. You know, fed up after digging so many graves, they consulted the ulama. What should we do with this person? May Allah protect us. They said, you know what? Just bury him inside the grave. Leave the rest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they buried him. In the Tariq of Maqrezi in the year 600, a man buried his wife. And by mistake, his handkerchief, which had money inside it, fell inside the grave. Now he's gone home, realizing that the handkerchief is inside the grave. He takes one of the local scholars to dig up the grave. Now the scholar standing at the corner of the grave, and this guy is dug up the grave. What did he see on that day? He saw his wife is sitting inside the grave, and her hair are tied to her feet. So what he does is interfere in the akhirah, and he tries to untie the hair. He's unable to do so. How is he going to be able to make a difference in the akhirah? But he doesn't refrain. He continues to do so. And what does the scholar witness? Down he goes, and down his wife goes, and there is not a sign of them. And he remains unconscious for 1 day and 1 night. When he gains consciousness and relates it to the Khalif, the Amir, he in turn wrote to the great scholar of Islam who alive was at the time, the great master of Hadith, Muhaddis, Taqiyuddin ibn Daqiq al-Eid, this is what's been witnessed in our land. So the great master of Hadith wrote back that this is a reminder. Simple. Very quickly, let us just look at very briefly some of the causes of the punishment inside the grave. Now, as we've seen from the hadith, there are many, many different reasons as to why a person will be punished. But in general, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, hadith of Bayhaqi, on the authority of Sayyidina Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, that in general, the punishment of the grave is as a result of 3 things. First, backbiting, riba. Secondly, carrying tales. And thirdly, negligence with regards to drops of urine. In the hadith which Imam Bukhari and Muslim have narrated in the Sahih on the authority of Ibn Abbas, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam was passing by once 2 graves, and the people in the grave were receiving punishment. So Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to the Sahaba that these people are being punished, and then Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam informed them that one of them, he would carry tales, and the second one was negligent with regards to drops of urine. And then Rasulullah asked for a fresh palm. He split it into 2, and then he planted 1 on each grave. So the Sahaba asked, Ya Rasulullah, why did you do this? Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam explained that it's so possible that the punishment will be lightened as long as these fresh palms don't become dry. My young friends, who from amongst us to some degree doesn't commit these sins? Especially the first 2, ghiba, backbiting, and carrying tales, especially ghiba, my friends. You know, this sin, rare will you find in any person that to some degree doesn't commit this sin. Even the learned, backbiting people. Now that we know the consequence of this, we need to refrain. And with regards to, you know, the drops of urine, we need to perform istibra. That we need to make sure that once we've done istanja, we need to be sure that no drops of urine come out and pollute our clothes or our bodies. Now those that don't perform istibra, without you even knowing, my young friends, you'll be committing this sin. You know, sometimes one little drop will come out and you won't even realize things that you can do that which will help and save you from the punishment of the grave. And this is something that every one of us can do. Rasulullah ﷺ said, Abdullah bin Mas'ud, whoever reads Surah Mulk every night, hopefully Allah will protect him from the punishment of the grave. Now who can't read Surah Mulk? You know, 29th juz, the first surah, it's 4 sides long. How long will it take you to memorize 4 sides? Allah's made the Quran easy, and He's made it so that it can be memorized. In one hadith, Ibn Abbas Tirmizi, a companion of Rasulullah, he set up a tent. He set up on a grave and he didn't know it was the grave. Now, all of a sudden, whilst he's inside the tent, he can actually hear somebody inside the grave and he's reading Surah Al-Mulk. So he was shocked, and he related this to our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ya Rasulullah, I set up my tent, didn't know it was a grave. All of a sudden I could hear somebody reading Surah Al-Mulk. So Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam confirmed, indeed, that surah is the protector and it will protect him from the punishment of the grave. But in a hadith which Ibn Asakir has related, a weak hadith on the authority of Anas, a man died and the only thing that he knew was Surah Al-Mulk. So, you know, the reason I'm relating this, you know, there are many guys that don't know how to read the Quran. This guy only knew Surah Mulk. Now he's died, he's inside his grave. The angel of punishment comes, Surah Mulk is also there and is standing between him and the punishment. So the angel says, move out of the way. You're from the book of Allah and I don't want to harm you, but I haven't got a choice. If you want to intercede and protect him, then go ask the Lord of the Arsh and Kursi. The surah will go to the Almighty Allah and say, oh Allah, you know, this servant of yours, out of your entire book, he would intend for me and he would come and recite me. Oh Allah, are you going to punish him today with the fire whilst I'm inside his heart? And if you're going to do this, oh Allah, then I want you to remove me from your book. Allah is the Arhamul Rahimin, the Akramul Akramin, the Ajwadul Ajwadin. He needs excuses, my young friends, to give you paradise. Will you give him that excuse? You know, every time you do a deed, let this thought cross your mind. You know what? Maybe this is the one. And I swear by Allah, you will do many good deeds. And every time you sin, let this thought cross your mind. You know what? Maybe this is the one as a result of which Allah will send me to Jahannam. And you know what? You won't commit any sin. So the surah will say, oh Allah, take me out from your book. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, it seems that you've become angry. The surah will say, oh Allah, do I have the right to become angry? He would recite me and you're punishing him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, your intercession has been accepted. You do with him as you please. This very surah, 4 sides, you're learning a line a day, my young friends. Top end, it'll take you a month or 2. Comes to his rescue, saves him from the punishment of the grave, will come, place his mouth on his mouth and say, okay, what to say of this mouth that would recite me? What to say of this heart that had memorized me? And what to say of these feet that would stand with me in prayer and recite me inside prayer? And thereafter, the surah will stay with him inside his grave so that he doesn't become afraid. This is something that every one of us can do. There are other deeds also, but we've got no choice in this matter. Let's say, for example, dying on Jummah. I haven't got a choice in this, and no of you got a choice in this. You know, if you're one of those that are lucky, then alhamdulillah. Because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever dies on Jummah, Allah will save him from the punishment of the grave. Now the easiest of these deeds is to read Surah Al-Mulk. And I assure you, once you've memorized it, no, literally it will take you not more than 3 minutes You know, by the time you leave the masjid and sit in your car or get to your house, you'll have read it. The hadith of Anas, which are related, was mentioned, Rasulullah mentioned it to the Sahaba. Every young, old, free man and slave memorized and learned this surah, Surah Al-Mulk. I conclude with the way I began. My friends, what I've said today you've heard before. You've heard before, you've heard today, and you will hear again tomorrow. It's meaningless. If it comes from one ear and it leaves the other, then it's meaningless. This is why I relate this hadith as I began. The clever man is he controlled his nafs. Who suppressed it? The nafs is whispering, let's go out and chill. Let's wine and dine. This girl looks beautiful. Let's spend some time there. Take a tablet or two. No, he suppresses it. Why? No, because Allah and His Rasul prohibited this. And he's suppressing it on one side, and he's pleasing Allah and His Rasul on the other side by working for the real life. And Sayyidina Ali, what did he say? Become the sons of the Akhirah, do not become the sons of the dunya. How long will we live for? 100 years? And even if you made a century, what's that century in comparison to the Akhirah? You live for 100 years. How long do you think accountability is? The day of judgment is 50,000 years long. 50,000 years long. Oh Allah. You live for 100 and you're paying the price 50,000. That's just on the day of judgment. After that, my young friends, it's eternity. It doesn't come to an end. So isn't it more wise, isn't it wise for this 50 years that Allah gives us in this dunya, 60 years, we obey Him, and you know what, I swear by Allah, Allah will give you paradise in the dunya. You know, if you obey Him, you know, this heart of yours will always be up there, it will be in 7th heaven. You will feel good. And then you know, them 50 years that you spend like this, what do you receive in return? You're receiving eternity. You're receiving zillions and zillions and zillions and zillions of years of bliss, of pleasure. Allah give me the tawfiq to understand. Allah give me the tawfiq to act upon the message that I convey to others. And then Allah give you the tawfiq. Wa akhiru dawana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.